Yes, MIME stands for Secure Multipurpose Internet Mail Extension. It is an email standard. It is based on the non-secure MIME. Yes, MIME is an extension or an upgradation over the MIME standard. The working of Yes MIME approach is similar to that of PGP, the pretty good privacy. Yes MIME also uses public key cryptography, symmetric key cryptography, hash functions, and digital signatures. It provides similar security services like PGP for email communication. Yes MIME uses RC2, which is also known as ARC2, and triple DES. The DES on expansion goes like this: data encryption algorithm, which is a symmetric block cipher algorithm described in RFC 1851. Why triple DES? The single key length of 56 bits was used earlier because it was not enough, it was not offering sufficient security. The 3 times the key size is being used, that is 56 bits times 3 equal to 168 key bits. So this enhanced size of the key improves the security. The public key method that is used is RSA. When we say RSA, it is reversed Shamir-Adleman, and the hashing algorithm used is SHA-1. As we know, SHA-1 is security hashing algorithm. It produces cryptographic hash digit, usually a hexadecimal number about 40 digits long. Yes MIME specifies the additional MIME type, such as application /PKCES7 MIME for data enveloping after encrypting. The whole MIME entity is encrypted and packed into the object. MIME is in fact an extension with some keywords to identify the encrypted or the signed parts in the message. Yes MIME relies on X.509 certificates for public key distribution. It needs top-down hierarchical PKI for certification support. When I say PKI, we refer public key infrastructure. Employability of Yes MIME. Due to the requirement of certificate from a certifying authority, not all users can take the advantage of Yes MIME. For example, without the involvement or administrative overhead of certificates, the usage is simpler. In practice, most emailing applications implement Yes MIME. Since the certificate enrollment process is complex, the PGP support is exploited. To manage the keys, the web of trust is not really used. The keys are exchanged using some other medium. Once obtained, a host keeps the copy of the public key of those with whom emails are usually exchanged. A secure email communication in a captive network can be provided by adopting to PGP for email security over internet, where mails are exchanged with new unknown users very often, where the S-MIME is the best option available. The generic routing encapsulation. Generic routing encapsulation is a very simple form of VPN implementation. With this, we can create a virtual link between routers and allow them to be directly connected, even if they are not physically directly connected. Look at the topology below. You see there are two routers, R1 and R2. In between there are also some routers. But if we are planning to create a GRE tunnel between R1 and R2, then you will see that the packets that are encapsulated and sent are sent with the new destination and source addresses, which will be the tunnel interface address at the router 1 and the tunnel interface address at the router 2. When the packets travel, the other routers in between do not have an idea about this encapsulated communication.
Please connect and try again.
When the packet comes at R1 from the host, the router, before placing it into the GRE tunnel, adds two headers to the packet. One is the GRE header, the other is the delivery header. Before it places the packet to be sent to the destination address, that is the tunnel interface IP address at R2. As you look here, the packet that is wrapped with two new headers is being now currently sent from R1 to R2, where the source address of the packet will be not the 192.168.1.1, but it will be 63.1.27.2, which is the IP address assigned to the tunnel interface of R1. And the destination IP address will be 85.5.24.10 is a new destination IP address mentioned in the encapsulated packet, which belong to the tunnel interface of the router R2. So after the message is passed from the router R2 to the host 192.168.2.1, the host has to rip out the two additionally added headers, that is the GRE header and the tunnel header. These two headers need to be removed, and then the host will have to receive the packet and then obtain the contents from it. Unlike the VPN, which supports multicast, this GRE tunnel based VPN does not support multicast. In case if there is a requirement, the user may have to go in for additional protocols like OSPF or EIGRP in order to obtain the facility that we have mentioned here. Now, a point here we need to note is that the packet that is sent is only encapsulated but not encrypted. In case we need to have a encrypted communication through this GRE tunnel, then you may have to seek the help of IPsec, and you may have to achieve what you. Now we are going to talk about secure sockets layer protocol. This protocol is used in combination with HTTP to produce HTTPS to secure the communication by transferring the encrypted data. The secure sockets layer protocol fundamentally works with asymmetric cryptography or symmetric cryptography. So when we look at the asymmetric cryptography, which is also known as public key cryptography, it uses a mathematically related key pair to encrypt and decrypt the data. Among this key pair, one of the key is shared with anyone who is interested in communication. The key that is shared is known as the public key. The other key, which is kept as a secret by the sender, is known as the private key. The keys what we refer here are some mathematical values which are created from a mathematical algorithm which is used to encrypt and decrypt the data. So the diagram below explains the asymmetric cryptography, where the key pair, a public key and a private key, that are being generated and are kept at two different ends. The private key is kept at the host which would like to communicate with the other host, to whom it shares the public key, and the host that receives the message, it realizes the message by decrypting it using the public key that is available with it. Now the second part of symmetric cryptography based SSL. Here the keys that are used for encryption and decryption are just one. There are no different keys. SSL uses symmetric cryptography after the initial handshake is completed using the session key. It employs AES 128, AES 192 or 256. When we say AES, we refer to Advanced Encryption Standard. These 128, 192, 256 refer to the key lengths that are used for the encryption and decryption purposes. The need for transport layer security. Generally, on an online transaction, let's assume that Bob visits Alice's website. Bob enters the goods and then the quantity he requires, his address and his payment card details. Now Bob clicks the submit button and waits for the delivery of the goods, while the debit of the value for the goods that he has ordered is already cleared from his cart. Everything is good when there is no threat. But Bob could be in a surprise if there is an attacker in between this transaction. For example, what can go wrong is an attacker who sniffs this transaction can obtain the payment card information and details about the Bob, and then later on he may make other purchases from the account of Bob. Or this attacker can modify the items and the type of goods and quantity that Bob has ordered. Or else, an attacker can falsify the logo of a famous outlet and then try to masquerade as Alice. With this situation, after receiving the Bob's order, the attacker takes the money from the Bob's account and then could flee without fulfilling the delivery of the goods. Or by carrying out the identity theft, he can collect the Bob's name and credit card details, which he may use it for other false transactions. So the transaction need to be secured in order to have the confidentiality, data integrity. So this is achieved using this TLS, that is transport layer security. As you see here, the transport layer protocols operate above the transport layer, which is being mentioned here as a TCP layer. With the enhanced security services of transport layer, we could view it as a TCP layer. Now, the TLS operates in between the transport layer and the application layer. It is placed in between. Now, the TLS communicates or facilitates the communication by interacting with the TCP layer through the APIs, what we call it as application programming interfaces, also known as sockets. Through that, it communicates to the TCP layer. So thereby achieving the required security. Next we go for secure electronic transaction. Generally, the online transactions have problems with regard to authentication, man-in-the-middle attack, identity theft, etc. So, the credit card and MasterCard giants known as Visa and MasterCard, two different entities, but they have come together and tried to solve these online transaction issues by creating a strong protocol that will encrypt the whole activity. Usually the problems on e-payment in credit and debit cards are maintaining the customer trust by keeping the credit card, debit card purchase details. Authentication of the buyer and merchant, confidentiality of the transaction. Since different systems are going to engage in this transaction, this heterogeneity of the systems and their compatibility, the encryption methods, the algorithms that are used for message digest, sharing the private and digital certificates. These are all usually are the issues in making an online payment secure. So these giants have suggested us or developed the SCT protocol, that is Secure Electronic Transaction Protocol. Right? So this actually can be viewed and understood with some different divisions. Number one, participants in this SCT system, SCT business requirements, SCT transactions, and key technologies of this secure electronic transaction. So when we say participants in this SCT, we refer to the customer and the merchant and the bank that we are referring. Okay, so these are the participants in the SCT system. The SCT business requirements are the objective. It should provide confidentiality of the payment and the orders that are placed, ensure the integrity of all the transmitted data between the buyer and the merchant and the bank, provide authentication to the card holder, as well verify the legitimacy of the user. Say for example, the credit card may be stolen one, yet the user could use it, provided he has some information like PIN or password or online banking username and password. And it is also mandatory to provide authentication to the merchant, while the validity of the transaction need to be ensured by the financial institution through which the merchant is trying to acknowledge the transaction, and ensure the best security practices and system design techniques to protect all legitimate parties in an electronic commerce transaction. Whoever is involved in this transaction, other than those three we have mentioned, still they all have to be supported and helped to keep their activities secure. For example, a customer who do not hold a credit card may seek the help of a third party who owns a credit card and then try to facilitate the online transaction. Right? So there are more than just the user, and the other two we have mentioned could also be part of a legal transaction. And the business objective is also to facilitate and encourage interoperability among software and network providers, where if you see, the user could be sitting in one country, the vendor could be sitting in another country, the customer or the user might use totally a different platform and a different internet service provider, while the merchant could use totally a different one. However, the compatibility and interoperability between these people is also the business responsibility of the SCT. So, the SCT transactions, the customer could open an account with the card issuer like Master, Visa, etc. This should be facilitated by SCT. The customer receives a digital certificate from the signed bank. A merchant who accepts a certain brand of card must possess two digital certificates, one for signing and one for the key exchange. The customer places an order for a product or service with the merchant. The merchant sends the copy of his certificate to the customer for verification. The customer sends order and payment information to the merchant. The merchant requests payment authorization from the payment gateway prior to the shipment. It could be the bank where the merchant has an account who has an affiliation directly to Visa or MasterCard. The merchant confirms the order to the customer and the merchant provides the goods or services to the customer. Finally, the merchant requests payment from the payment gateway. So the SCT supported transactions are cardholder registration, merchant registration, purchase request, payment authorization, payment capture, certificate query, purchase enquiry, purchase notification, sale transaction, authorization reversal, capture reversal, credit or payment reversal. So the last three are after the customer places an order, even when the money is also deducted, before the product delivery is done by the merchant, the customer has a freedom to edit or customize or change his order, in which case the merchant has the responsibility to reverse the payment and to take the new order from the customer, and accordingly he has to collect the money. The key technologies of secure electronic transaction is it uses triple DS for maintaining the confidentiality of the information. As I told you, the triple DS uses 56 bits times 3, which is 168 key bits for encryption purposes. To maintain the integrity of the data, RSA and digital signatures with SHA-1 hashings are used. Cardholder account authentication need to be done using digital certificates with RSA signatures. Merchant authentication is done using digital certificates with RSA signatures. The privacy need to be maintained by separating order and payment information using two different dual signatures. So as you see here, the customer browses an online merchant and decides to purchase some of the items that are available. The customer uses secure electronic transactions and send the order and payment information to the merchant. Now, after receiving the order and the payment information, the merchant forwards the payment information to the bank where the merchant is holding the business account. And the merchant's bank, before authenticating the payment, will contact the bank that has issued the particular type of card and check whether it is genuine, whether there is sufficient balance, and etc. And then once the bank authorizes, then the merchant's bank will authorize the payment to the merchant. Now, after getting the authorization for payment from the merchant's bank, where the customer bank has already agreed, now the merchant will complete the order and set the goods to be sent to the customer, and the merchant also captures the transaction. You may use, if the discussion on certain topics are not enough, you might use the websites that we have discussed here.